Okay,
here we go.
what I want to tell you about is my mother was healed. Did I ever tell you that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, briefly, they were married after the First World War, which ended in 1918, November, Armistice Day, and they got married in April and moved to Canada. And my dad's brother had a homestead in Canada, close to Winnipeg, a little town called Starbuck. And anyhow, that didn't work out. He got another farm later, but anyhow, my mother, see, they were married in 1919. I was born in 26. That is almost 7 years after they were married. My mother couldn't carry children, and she had 2 miscarriages, and and she was very sick, and one of the doctors told her, don't try and have any more children, she could die,
Sure.
whatever it was. And so they were raised in a Christian home, but they basically were not Christians, they were good kids, but anyhow, but their folks were praying for them. I think they were from a Lutheran church. And one day, the same day, they both felt that they needed to pray and give their hearts to the Lord. So they did it, knelt down by their bed and gave their hearts to the Lord. Well, since their upbringing was Lutheran, there was a Lutheran church in that little town, Starbuck, and they started going there. And the pastor was a good Christian, but later on he moved, and the new pastor wasn't. Well, he wasn't just as good. And so since they lived to this big metropolitan area like Oklahoma City is to the surrounding area, Winnipeg. You've heard of Winnipeg, Canada.
Sure.
Okay. There was this Pentecostal church there, and they were a Pentecostal church, and they also prayed for the sick, and people were healed. Okay. So my dad and mother started going there, and they prayed for my mother, and then I was born. About 9 months later, and my dad was a farmer. He knew how to take care of animals when they birthed, So anyhow, they had called the doctor, and they didn't have a phone, so he went to the neighbors and called on the phone and said, I think my wife is ready to have her baby, and so the doctor, made plans to come. But he didn't get there in time. So I was born. And I guess my dad tied the umbilical cord, whatever. And then the doctor came a little later and took care of the afterbirth and checked everything, and everything. And I'm the oldest of 5 children. And they were all born at home, not the hospital, and my mother didn't have any problems after that. When I was first pregnant, I thought, my mother had a lot of problems. So I asked my doctor, I said, my mother had a couple miscarriages, and she had a lot of trouble. And he said I wouldn't worry about that. And I didn't have any troubles with births.
Good.
And I had 4.
You sure did.
And anyhow, I married a minister, and then my sister, she went to Bible college. I just went 1 year because it was my husband's last year, and it was 1,000 miles away from home. I went there because my friends from my young people's group went, had gone there, so I knew someone there, and this one girl, her sister had graduated, and you don't know who they're going to put, who they're going to put you, the roommate you're going to have, and so she said, if you come, you can be my roommate. So I went, and she was my roommate. Didn't have any problem. There were some people who had, my husband had someone who could see demons and so forth, and he had to leave school. But
Interesting.
You
So what
never
was the name
know,
of
huh?
what was the name of that school?
Central Bible College,
What town was that in?
huh?
What town was that in?
Springfield, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay.
And it was 1,000 miles from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now my sister and 3 brothers went to the Bible college that was in Minneapolis, and it was about 500 miles from where we lived. But it was, it was much closer.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't go there because I had there was a couple young people from our church that were going to Springfield, Missouri. So that's where I went.
That's where you decided to go.
Yeah.
Thankfully so.
But I want it to be in there about my mother being healed.
It's on video now.
Video.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've okay.
Yeah. That's on
You
video
are
for sure.
Taping it right now. And
Absolutely.
you're listening to it, aren't you?
Julia, can you start at the very top with your questions?
What's your full name?
My full name, I was born Ruth Esther Ireton. I married Robert Ireton, and so my name now is Ruth Ireton, and has been for 60-some years. Anyhow, we were married 61 years.
Good. What's next, Julia?
Birth date.
My birth date, I was born on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 1926.
1926.
City,
Okay.
state, and country of birth.
Okay. I told you that after my folks were married, they were married in Minnesota, but they moved to close to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is almost straight north of here, and to a town called Starbuck. So I was born in Starbuck, Manitoba. Manitoba is just like a state, anyhow, Manitoba.
It's a province of
It's
Canada,
like Oklahoma, North Dakota,
but in Canada. Did
But it's
you know
called-
she was born in
it's-
Canada, Julia?
But it's called a province instead of a state. Province.
Mm-hmm. Julie, did you know she was born in Canada? Good, you learned something.
Okay.
What's your father's name?
My father's name is Clarence Larson. And he took his father's name for his second name, the initial J for John. Clarence John Larson.
What about your mother's name?
My mother's name was Thilda, Thilda. And when she was younger, they used to call her Tilly.
I like that.
Marriage date.
What's that?
Marriage date.
Oh, I was married September 27th, 1947. So,
Pa's name. So,
oh, My spouse's name is Robert Ireton. Do you want to see this picture? This is the book that your mother made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was in the back of your mother's house. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was taken at the time of your brother's wedding. I mean, not the wedding, the
The rehearsal dinner.
rehearsal dinner.
Mhm.
They had the rehearsal dinner in your mother's backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and he was sitting on a chair close
So
to
that
the
was
house.
probably 2000. Was that 2002? Is that right? Yeah.
And there's a picture of our family when our
I-
children were little.
I remember that picture. Julia, do you remember these people?
This is Grandpa and me, and Uncle David, Aunt Donna, Uncle Bob, and your grandma.
That's Grandmommy.
Does she still look the same? I think she looks a little bit like Hallie. What do you think? Or Hallie looks a little bit like her. What do you think, Julia? I think so.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see it.
Now the picture was colored. It was touched up. You know, we said I had a dark brown dress on, and she had a red dress on. I don't know what his shirt was, and that was a two-piece outfit.
Mm-hmm. But you had that hanging in your dining room for...
Huh?
You had that hanging in your dining room for more than 40 years, probably, right?
I don't know.
That picture. That's where I always remember
Do
seeing
you
it.
have one like that in your house?
Yes, we do in our entryway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyhow, your mother has made lots of books. Almost one for a year, and one for the last two weddings in 2012.
Where did you live while growing up?
Okay, I lived in Canada, and I went to the first and second grade in a town called Virden, Manitoba, Canada. It's just right over the border from North Dakota. And then in the third grade we moved to Cavalier, which